So who else is excited for the gardening season this year, 2025? It's spring, it's time to get the seeds started. I just prepared the soil mix, which you can see in one of our previous videos, and I've got the soil in the trays, and now I just need to drop my seeds in. I've got some packets from Southern Exposure here. I'm pretty excited to start with the tomatoes, so that's what I'm gonna get going with first. If you have any tips or tricks or advice on how you do seed starting, please leave them in the comments below. Something that I've noticed is that I feel like slightly nervous, and I know that sounds totally crazy because I've started seeds before, but it's more like kind of like a joyous kind of excitement that I'm processing as nervousness. And I feel like it can be that way whenever you're trying to do something different. Like I'm gardening in a new environment this year. I'm in zone 6A, 5B. I say 5B because I'm in a holler, so it seems to be a little bit cooler here than the rest of my region. Holler is a Virginia term. You're gonna have to look that one up if you're not familiar. But because we're in this valley, kind of low-lying, it's kind of cold. But I just wanted to offer some encouragement. It's not too late to get any of your seeds started or just to buy starts and, get the garden prepped. Now's the time to do these things. And, if you have any kind of anxiety about getting started, just want to know that I'm there with you. And let's just roll up our sleeves and get going. So it was actually a beautiful, sunny, warm day, and I was outside, albeit a little bit windy, but then the rains came, so I had to bring my trays inside. But that brings me to my first point, is that I actually prefer seed starting indoors, because some of the seeds are so tiny, they can just get picked up with the wind and just fly away. And they're valuable to me. Whatever I don't use, I can save for, or I can give to friends and neighbors. So want to preserve these little gems. And just first tip is, as beautiful as it may be outside, you might want to consider just doing the seeds indoors. And my next tip is just to assemble all the things that you need so they're just ready at hand to make this process simple. And you don't need much. So as I said, I've already filled the trays with a good seed starting mix. This is the NeverSink 50 cell tray that does the air pruning. I've got that. I've talked about that in my previous video. I have some plant labels that I got off Amazon with a little marker to write. And it's so important. This is probably the biggest tip, is just to stay organized. Write dates, write varieties, keep track. I'm also going to make written notes about when I planted what, so that if I want to do succession planting, such as, another sowing of this crop in a few weeks later, I can always go back and reference my notes and know when I did what. And then, of course, we've got our handy dandy seeds here. And we got our seed box here, trying to keep all this clean. I keep the magazine that I bought the seeds from because there's so much good information to reference in there. But yeah, other than that, we don't need much. Let's get going. So I wanted to say a quick word about plant math. So basically, how do you know how many of each variety to plant? That, as I went to go put my seeds in the soil, I realized I hadn't even really considered firm numbers. So I'm problem solving by thinking backwards. I know where in the garden I want to put the tomatoes. I want them on the east to west orientation on the north side. That way they can grow really tall and I can trellis them. I'm not going to worry about them shading anything else. They'll be along the fence line in the back. So, typically, rows are thought to be, north, south to north. But I know a really good garden grower that plants theirs east to west. That way they can maximize the morning and afternoon sun. So that's what I'm going to do. So I know that my east to west axis is a maximum of 46 feet. And of course I have to have a little setback from the fence. So, it was easier for me to think of the numbers on graph paper. So I grabbed my graph paper, but I can't do 46. It's not wide enough to do, 48 feet. I can't do 48 feet. There really just isn't enough room on this graph paper. So I decided to take it down to a half scale. So, half of that. I guess 46, I gave myself like a little bit of that buffer room I don't want to use on each end. Also because it seems like they were a little scant when they excavated and didn't give me the full amount of feet that I had asked for. So, but that's all fine. So anyways, we're kind of just talking round numbers here. So I'm doing a half scale drawing so I could think about this visually. So in my case, I'm using the number 23, half of what I thought was 46. And I started with my center point, and I know that based off the spacing on the packet, final plant spacing, the minimum is every 24 inches, although you could go bigger. You could go like a wider spacing. So each square in my case is going to equal 2 feet because it's half scale. And so I just found where my midpoint and centered the plants around there. And then I counted out to the edges. And I found I could do 11 on each side. So a maximum of 22 plants. And again, I could also do wider spacing. 24 inches is a minimum. So I'm just going to cut that down to do 20 tomato plants. I feel like that will be plenty. I don't need as many of the heirloom variety. I mean, it's just 2 adults, and I'm sure we'll share a little bit, but they don't preserve that well. At least I can't think of any ways to preserve these heirloom tomatoes at this point. So I don't need that many, but these are paste tomatoes. They're canning varieties. So I would like to have really as many as I can grow of this type. So just a little insight into how you might want to consider laying out your garden and thinking about how much to plant. Okay, quick update. It's been 5 days since I put these seeds in, and I'm starting to see some germination. We see we've got our little seedlings coming up now. All I did was keep them moist. One of these is on a heat mat, a very gentle heat mat. I mean, it's not very hot at all. But this is an uninsulated barn, so I just, in case we get a frost or something like that, get a cold night, I just wanted to give some extra loving to the tomatoes, which they're coming up slowly, but these other ones are coming up, and all I've done is spray it with some water to keep the tops moist, and the humidity domes are keeping all the moisture in. Alright, so this is the 4-week update since the time that I planted these seeds. And you can see I have a thermometer here, checks the humidity, so it's about 70 degrees. And once I started getting a second set of leaves, see like first, second set, I started to give a fertilizer, a very dilute AgriThrive fertilizer, as needed when I needed water. Peas are totally outgrowing this setup. But yeah, everything looks really good. The seed starting mix was very successful, and I have put this sort of reflective, we had this extra material around, it's a rigid insulation with a reflective side, just to keep some of the light in. Everything's looking really good. But I'm coming home, I'm coming home, I'm coming.
Homestead Overland, Virginia.